Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Like and subscribe.
Welcome to the Sit, Walk, Work podcast, a show about paying attention. My name is Dominic and I'm your host, and today is a guided meditation. And what you can expect is that the practice will open up with a brief recap, followed by the actual practice itself. If you find today's episode valuable, please share with your friends and family, and feel free to leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. The show will begin after the following chimes. So I grew up in a single parent home. And one of the byproducts of having a single parent is that they have to work a lot, so they're not always around and available. So you're left to your own devices to figure out what's going on and to solve problems, which typically that was the case for me. As a result, I had the luxury of coming up with creative ideas. And one of those ideas I stumbled across was the idea of using the opposite of what you know. Often we don't have a starting point, and sometimes that starting point can be reverse engineered by working backwards and choosing the opposite of what you've been trying to see if a new result emerges. And I'm certain this is something you're familiar with or have stumbled across in your own personal life, or maybe you've been trying to achieve something and working really hard doing one thing, and then you flip it and move in a different direction, and all of a sudden, bam, a new path has kind of emerged for you. Epictetus says that in some ways, what assistance can we find in the fight against habit? Try the opposite. Ryan Holiday, in his book, The Daily Stoic, talks about how the fans of the TV show Seinfeld might remember the episode called The Opposite, in which George Costanza magically improves his life by doing the opposite of what he normally does. Jerry Seinfeld told him, if every instinct you have is wrong, then your opposite instinct happens to be right. The larger part here is that sometimes our instincts get stuck and bound up, and bad patterns emerges that push us further away from kind of our natural healthy selves. When the Buddha talks about balancing opposites as finding the middle way, he means that we're trying to find understanding through interdependence, through connection. In the Bhagavad Gita, we're asked to assume equal pleasure and pain, winning and losing, victory and defeat, that we become people who can hold both of these things simultaneously. And when I consider the practice from this approach, I can certainly see the value in which it offers, reducing us from being overly dramatic and taking things to the extreme. We can find peace regardless of the conditions. It doesn't mean that I love everything that's happening, but I'm capable of dealing with it a lot more easily. As a whole, this is how you and I begin to develop our muscles for empathy to situations and others in the world. When we're comfortable with all aspects of ourselves, we can be comfortable with that in others, and we'll all be better for it. Begin to turn your gaze inwards for practice. If that is not comfortable, then rest your gaze slightly out in front of you, kind of fixed on a spot that doesn't move and doesn't distract you from the practice. And that gives us a little bit of our table setting for today. I always think of closing the eyes as flipping a switch almost. That tells my body we're doing something different. You've had a full day in front of you for most of us, dealing with life, whatever situations you may have encountered throughout the day, good, bad, indifferent. Now, as we come to almost pause or put the brakes on the doing, flipping the switch to the being, setting our gaze to a place where we begin to kind of just see ourselves a little differently. And maybe we bring a corresponding attitude of willingness and openness and patience to maybe release a bit of rigidity that sometimes exists within the dialogue of the mind. That way, we make room for learning and exploring, or even seeing things a little bit differently, versus thinking we need to clear our mind of thinking. We become students of the mind, learning its patterns and its changing ways. And in that learning, we find our peace. Today's practice is going to focus us around this idea of opposites, that there's this dance constantly going on of opposites that we'll explore throughout the practice. And the first place that you can begin to see that as energy in your body is by bringing your attention to the movement of the breath. Prior to me directing your attention to your breath, your body has been actively breathing itself, no intervention from you. As your attention rests here, try to feel that breath in your body. Where does this show up for you as you breathe in and as you breathe out? In this particular case, not trying to change or influence it, even though that may happen. Just simply seeing if you can receive it. One of the things you'll notice as you're observing the breath is that idea I started off with about opposites. The inhale and the exhale are the perfect example. Two sides of the same coin, both needed to bring balance to the body and to the mind. In moments where I have your attention focused in one place, it can be easy for the mind to slip into thinking or to get distracted by a feeling or maybe something left over from earlier in the day. Should you encounter those types of distractions, simply acknowledging it and returning back to the breath, back to the receiving of the in breath and the out breath. With patience and kindness, we simply start over. As you've been sitting with and observing the breath moving in and moving out, start to expand your attention a bit wider to include how the body feels with the bit of work you've started to do thus far. This following of the breath and paying attention to it is a part of the overall sense and feeling tone. And as you're kind of sitting here and opening yourself up to how you feel in this moment, keep the idea of being willing to receive all that's arising or all that's appearing in this moment. Staying connected to the idea that we're working to be open to the full experience of what comes up, rather than weighing the scales towards good or bad or other language words like that. We receive the opposites that arise in the way that you receive the inhale and the exhale of your breath. Feeling into the body now, noticing how, as your mind sits here and observes all that's kind of passing in front of it and through it, that there's a corresponding physical effect to all of this. And we're going to play with the idea that what we focus on in our thoughts trickles down into the body and into the breath. Beginning to let your mind reflect throughout the course of the day and recall a moment today that stands out to you. Doesn't have to be a great moment, doesn't have to be a bad moment, but I just want the thing that is most pertinent to you thus far that's happened today. We all have one or two things that, when we think about the day, kind of can sum up the day, or maybe it started a tone for the day that followed you throughout it. And as you kind of let your mind open to this idea, keep it open in a way that you not only think it, but you also look with your attention to see how you can feel it. Notice the way that your breathing is affected by the thinking and the feeling of this moment. See if you can make a connection in your body to this experience, good, bad, or indifferent. You can play with the size of the memory. You can play with introducing sounds or smells from the moment. Really trying to connect to where you feel this in the body. And as you draw closer to that sensation in the body, you can let the memory fall to the back and kind of just stay with what's happening in the body as sensation, as physical energy moving through you. And as I've alluded to throughout practice, we want to be open to playing with this idea of opposites. So now begin to invite the opposite of that thought, whatever it was that you were working with, I should say. Using this as a tool to see where your comfort level is. If it's inviting in something that is a little less, you're a little less comfortable with, notice where that discomfort shows up, the thoughts that surround it, or where you might meet resistance. In the same way that you looked at the first memory, you look at this one to feel it in the body, to notice it in the breath, to find where these two ideas physically contrast one another. Holding on to the physical sensation as the memory slowly kind of drapes off to the background, looking to try to get a sense for where your original thought exists in your body and where its opposite exists. Now taking both of these feelings in the body and seeing if you can hold them simultaneously, looking to see what happens when we try to bring this idea of equanimity into the moment. And if you find yourself meeting resistance here, can you simply soften and just let both kind of be? It's as if you're just dropping back into the space that's allowing all of this to occur. This witnessing presence that's been observing your practice, that has provided a bit of consistency through all the changing parts of what's come up today. A reminder that in spite of every object that changes in your meditation practice, there is always a constant theme of witnessing it, of steadiness, of spaciousness. See if you can touch into that. Directing your attention to the idea of, is there anything that you need in this moment? Is there any sense of being a bit kinder to yourself? Or even offering a bit of compassion to yourself for this moment, for anything that might have come up in practice or that you're sitting and holding today? That even if just for right now, consider the idea of offering yourself the grace that we look for others to give. Knowing that in this moment, everything you need is here in some capacity to experience or explore. Our meditation practice is the one part of our day where we can always err on the side of love and compassion for ourselves. That even if that concept is new or foreign, we can begin to start to get to know it, to become acquainted to it. letting your attention find its way back to observing the breathing of your body, the inhale and the exhale, the rise and the fall of each in and out breath. Each inhale receiving the love, compassion, and understanding that's present in the moment. Each exhale, letting go from the attachments to the parts of our practice that aren't as helpful or supportive. Settling into the idea that it's okay because we get to begin again as the next breath starts again. So, too, is a new moment for us to start again. And as you're observing the breath, notice if there's any physical tension being held in the hands, in the jaw or the face, in any other location in the body. And see if with the next few exhales, you can invite in a bit of softness to that tension. As we begin to bring practice to a close, take this last minute or so just to give yourself a bit of self gratitude and support for showing up and taking this journey with yourself today. Every day is a new opportunity to explore and to learn, but it all starts with the willingness and a faith to be present for this time. Closing out the practice by blinking the eyes open Maybe bringing the hands together, giving yourself a small little prayer, a little gratitude as we kind of bring our time together to a close.
That's the beauty of it.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I invite you to check out my Substack, where we are building a community of like-minded individuals to discuss all topics related to the idea of paying attention. I hope to see you there. But until then, with metta may you be well.
Like and subscribe.